Evening, ladies and gents, for a special broadcast, we'll call it, here from MRC. We are here as after the mid-season break, we thought we'd come together and deliberate some of the incidents and some of the reports that we've seen through stewarding this season, and a few points that people have made throughout the Discord in terms of what they would like to see and what they would kind of like to, if you like, improve on and get help with. So what we're here to do tonight, we have 4 of our main stewards and administrators and commentators with us this evening, just to run round and do a little bit of hints and tips, you could call it, just to show you a few little pointers and try to help out as much as possible, and also to describe what we're looking for in terms of racing etiquette in the league. Joining me this evening, I'm not doing it alone, of course, it is former teammate, and we're welcoming him back as well to MRC after he's now completed Gran Turismo, I hope, by now.
Just about.
Just about. It's, of course, as you'll know him very well, as Genie. Good evening.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yes, it's really nice to be here, and I think it's really good to be doing something like this because when I was new to this league, I signed up just wanting to race people, and the first thing I got was like, hey, read through this massive manual of everything we expect of you and what we want as a racing driver to make this fair. And it suddenly I had to take a step back, and I was like, oh blimey, this is serious stuff. And and it is, because if you want hard and fair racing, if you want to have fun, it's got to be fair, because we've all been in open lobbies, we all know what that's like. We don't want that in our league, so hopefully tonight we can show you a few examples of what to do, what not to do, and the league can be a much better place for it.
Yeah, oh, exactly right. Yeah, I remember that book, and it seems to adapt every season as we're obviously improving our processes, and yeah, I've read through that a few times. I'm thinking, what on earth have I got to read now? So we've got a few drivers just on track. We're not going full racing speed. The drivers are, of course, just doing half laps, just trying to keep some heat in those tyres that we're going to show you this evening. We're going to try, we've done this before, we're going to try and direct the drivers a little bit this evening. So we've got Chris up front, we've got Connor behind, Simba, and then Andrew all line astern. I think the first thing we're going to start talking about is Chris is going a little bit of rallying. He's cutting the grass, he's doing a Bottas and cutting the grass. Is that we're going to look at, there's been quite a lot of instances regarding what they would really class as a dive bomb. And of course we've got to talk about how a driver needs to act and react to the person behind. And I think in this video we're going to show, as the run up to the chicane, where I think we're at Zandvoort on Monday, it's going to kind of play in quite well, isn't it? And would you like to take us through this, Rob?
Yeah, so DRS zone, off overtaking opportunity. You've got the Mercedes in front by quite a long way, and there we go, you've got the Ferrari just bashing into the side of him to make the overtake. I think you can clearly see why that's wrong for a number of reasons. Number one, how far back is the Ferrari from that Mercedes? We often look at stewards of if cars are side by side going into a corner. He wasn't even in the same postcode as him. So if you're braking that late to try and make the apex of the corner, that's strike one. That's how you don't take the corner and dive bomb. And there they are doing a better example, I guess, into turn one. What's the other things you look out for in a dive bomb, just to make sure that, what makes you think that's definitely a nailed-on penalty?
Yeah, I think you're right. Is if you are at least, a good 2 car lengths back, you would have to say, from the driver coming into, even before the braking zone where you would normally brake. And I think usually as well at that higher speed, you're going to be travelling quicker than the car ahead. You're going to have that higher closing speed. And it's just about taking due care, about being aware of what is happening, what you're doing is key there. And of course the driver will have, a lot of the drivers use the rear view mirrors, which if we go onto board with our lead at the moment and then look back, that's kind of what they would roughly see through their rear mirror. And he's
Winky is flap at us. I remember
he
those
is
evenings,
flapping us at the moment, yeah. And that's what you'd expect from two car lanes back, kind of where Mark is now, you would say, from where he is, which is a good length.
Can he give us another dive bomb? Can he really smash into the side of Chris?
I think he's going to down the straight, so DRS zone 2 is flapping open and closed. So if he keeps it closed, Simba's going to look into turn 1. He's really, really far back, and that is an absolute perfect example of a dive bomb. Both cars off track and major, major contact.
The other thing I think that it's worth pointing out about is if you're the car from behind, if you're thinking, oh my goodness, is this a dive bomb in your mind? Can you make the corner safely? Can you slow down and make the apex of the corner? Even if the gap is there, are you able to slow yourself down in time, or is that car on the outside going to become a brake for you? Because if it's a brake, then it's definitely a dive bomb. You're going to do damage to yourself as well as ruining somebody else's race. It's not worth it. So I think there are, there's you've got to recognise when you're that car behind that you're about to make that mistake as well. There's another thing as well, if we do, maybe if we can get the Merc doing a dive bomb on Simba here as we go into the other overtaking zone, and this is where it's going to happen, into the DRS, down the inside. Look, as he goes down the inside there, one, he was never going to make that corner. Two, where's that Red Bull meant to go? Okay, that gap is always going to be closing. He's going to go for the apex. He's expecting to make the corner as he usually would. So if you're going into that gap's closing all the time, and you're going to cause a collision and most likely damage your front wing as well. So yeah, I think those are the big things I look for when dealing with the subject of dive bombs. If you're not alongside the driver, if you don't have the space to slow down, then you're not going to make the corner. It's unsafe.
Exactly. And then Chris overtook Simba there, and that was what you class as a very clean overtake. He was a bit far, but he timed that. Yes, we are not running at racing speed, of course, but that was really good awareness as well. But that was a really good move, and it was clean, it was concise, and both managed to make the corner, and that was really, really good move. So I hope that has helped. If we move on now, I think unless you got anything else to say on that matter.
No. I think that's fine. Hopefully that's clear for everybody what it is, and they'll be able to put that into action next time they're on the racing track.
Yeah, and there is another one that we've mentioned before that we've said that you have to always react to the car in front. It is difficult in racing situations. We get that. Rob and I are racers ourselves, of course, and it is difficult sometimes. But it's just being aware and is that car struggling with grip? You'll have seen it. You'll have followed them. Where is their braking zone? Where is your braking zone? You're travelling quicker than them. And it's just about being aware at all times. That car could suddenly have an issue and brake that touch earlier through, lapse of concentration, for want of a better term.
Yeah, so. Precisely. And it's not going to be an uncommon situation. So one of the things that personally irritated me when I was head steward of what you would get from some people in these situations when they were the car behind. They would say, oh, he brake checked me. Very rare that you actually see a proper brake check, in my opinion, from the footage that we get. Yeah. And two, there's always sort of a sense of, well, I'm faster than this guy. I qualified in pole position, this guy was in 15th. All right? He should be getting out of my way. And that's not the attitude to have. The attitude when you are the car behind is you are responsible for the car in front. You must make the overtake safely and not push to pass. And you're going to find yourself in that situation because if you're the leader, you've pitted, you're on softs, you get behind a car who's on hards, they're going to be slower, right? You've qualified faster than them. They're going to be slow. They might be a bit more tentative into those corners. And also, the other thing to remember is that this isn't real life, this is online racing. You get things like ping and lag and little spikes, right? You have to be ready that you can't quite go door to door with these drivers. You've got to make some space when you're going into the apex of the corners to make sure that you judge what the car's going to do ahead into those corners. Then when you're on the straight, that's when you can overtake them. That's where you're faster than them. That's where you got the DRS. So I think that's just like a really good rule to take into any situation, particularly when you know you're fast, because if you end up smashing into that car in front, you're going to ruin their race, you're going to be pitting for a new front wing, and you're going to be lamenting why you didn't win that race because you didn't have the patience to overtake that car in front.
Yeah, and then they're not gone from... Yeah, exactly right, well said. And I think, and not for that, you're going to find yourselves probably in front of the stewards, which will give you penalty points. So even if you did go on to win, chances are you're going to get a penalty which will demote you from that position. It's going to hurt your championship, and the penalty points on your licence will add up, and there'll be qualifying bans, race bans, etc. And that's obviously something to look out for. We are a very clean league in general, but I mean, we know accidents happen, but it's just about being very mindful about that.
Yeah, and just a quick point on the penalty point system, it works really well because it does allow for mistakes. You're going to make mistakes when you're learning. You know that's going to happen from time to time. Mistakes are okay, but just because it was a mistake doesn't mean that it's not your fault. And you've got to learn from that mistake and take it into the next race. You can still be penalised even if you misjudged it as an accident. You've ruined that guy's race in front. You deserve some penalty. You've got to take responsibility for your actions. And if you're unable to take responsibility, that's when the points start to rack up and you get consequences like qualifying bans or race bans, or very unfortunately you might be banned from the league or a season altogether, and we don't want that to happen. Nobody likes doing that to any driver. We want to see our drivers learn from these situations, move on, and make the league a much better place for everyone.
Exactly. So from that, I think the drivers are having a bit of fun themselves, simply putting a fast lap, and now I think it's Chris's turn trying to do it. I'm gonna have to spoil his fun, but actually Chris is in a perfect position where we've found a few instances recently with regards to lapped drivers, and this is something that we do have ghosting on in this league. We did turn it off for a while in Tier 1, and we turned it back on after it just caused a little bit of carnage. So we've got the ghosting on now, I should say, and it means if a driver's spun, it minimises the collisions. But for lapped cars, they are ghosted. But we have found a lot of drivers are still getting involved with the race leaders coming through. Now, whether they're trying to race them, they're not moving off the line. We all know when there's a yellow flag because it comes up in our deltas. We also know when there's a blue flag because that comes up in our deltas. And a lot of drivers are not being respectful. Is the best term for it. It's the only term for it. Of moving out of the way cleanly and quickly, as it is in the rule book that we have, one of those multi-page documents, and they're not respecting those drivers that are coming through and moving out of the way. So what we're going to do in this instance, yes, we don't have ghosting on, all the drivers are on laps, it is a practice session, but Chris is in the lead at the moment in the Mercedes, which he loves, really, he does. And then we have Andrew behind in the McLaren, so Chris is in the lead here. We're going through the middle sector, which is a perfect point as when we're going to find places to move out the way. So Chris is going through, he's going to see leaders coming up behind him. He has now got blue flags for this instance, so riding on board. He has moved there, look at that, right out the way. He's got out of the throttle, and the two leaders there, don't know where Connor's gone, have now passed him, and he's out of the way and allowed the two pass in a very safe place.
Yeah, that's perfect, and a lot of that comes down to track awareness, and my biggest tip for this would be have your rear view mirror on all the time, if you can, in your settings, and have your track map on as well. If you know that you're slow, you can see the faster cars approaching, you can make the move and get out of their way in good time and not ruin your race as well, because if you're caught unawares, that's the biggest problem. If you've got no idea that they're behind you, that's when you're going to cause trouble, isn't it? So just make it easier for yourself and have those assists on.
Having a little bit of a play fight now. Simmer down, lads. So now we're going to do that again. So Andrew's coming up out of turn 3. He is in the lead. You can see the Red Bull behind him, and now we have got Connor joining us. Thank you. So Andrew's going to find a place to move out of the way safely. He has got blue flags. You can see that Red Bull, and now he's there. We go. Look at that. He's moved right over to the right-hand side and slowed down. He knows there's a right-hander coming, but there he is, and he's allowed all 3 leaders. Because of his awareness, he knows where everybody is, and that is just perfect to do.
Yeah, all down to track knowledge as well. You know, the more you practice, the more you'll get to know where the racing line is and where it isn't, so you'll know to move safely offline. And I think this tip also really applies to qualifying sessions, cool-down laps and your out lap. There might be drivers on a quick lap that you need to get out of the way of fast. And having that awareness, just use that same principle when you're actually in a race and if you're being lapped. You know, just get out of the way.
Qualifying's perfect, especially around here. It is quite twisty. We'll just get Andrew to catch up as well again, and we'll run this with Connor in the lead. Again, in a different part of the track where we can see another way to get off the racing line. And as you mentioned, practice, you learn where the racing line is. To be able to get off the way, to not hamper someone's braking zone, to not hamper their line of sight, to not get in the way of them. Like I say, qualifying especially, where cars aren't ghosted, but it's just as important. And ghosting's on. It still puts people off, especially if we saw where we've run this. The 2 or 3 cars are very close together. These could be, fighting for the win, fighting for the lead, fighting for championships, and having others in the way is not going to be ideal. So we're going to go on board with Connor. This is quite an interesting part because we're going to have Connor's going to find a place in between these couple of corners where it's going to be best to move and allow the cars past. So he went wide through there, but now he's going to stick to this side as he's going to allow the other cars to go past, and he's slowed there because he knew the other McLaren was there. It was coming, but it was just a question of where, so he slowed down to not be on the apex of that corner and to be in the McLaren's, or which was Andrew, his line of sight.
Yeah, the only other thing I would mention about that as well is that when you're the car being overtaken, when you're Connor in that situation, take a line, stick to it. Okay, you might be in a party with some people in the group. You're not going to be in a party with all 20 drivers. There's a body language of cars that you've got to understand, and if you make unpredictable moves, then you're going to cause an accident. If you suddenly change your line at the last minute, that might put a car off. So take your line, stick to it, let those cars past, and then everybody will be a lot happier for it.
Exactly. So who have we got now? So we've got Simba in the lead. We have Chris behind him, and then we have Andrew and Connor. So we're going to stick in this order until the end of the lap, because what we're going to simulate now is something that we don't really look at very often. I don't think we need to, but it's just occasionally it does pop up. Is a safety car restart.
Oh, is it a safety car chat time? Brilliant. I'll bring out the trivia.
Where's the punchy for this one? So this track was formulated in
this was a bigger problem sort of like back at the start. I think I don't remember having an incident this season, which is great, but the one thing to remember under safety car start is that when you are the lead car, you control the pace after the safety car goes in. So it's up to you to be responsible for not only your own race start, but the 19 cars behind you. And the worst thing you can do, let's have a bad example from Simba if we can. In this last corner,
so I'm going to ride on board with Goodness. So go on, you can talk us through this. I'm riding on board with him as well.
He wants to get a really good start. He wants to trick the other person. So what he's going to do is he's going to go really quickly, and then he's going to slow down, and then he's going to speed back up again, right?
Yeah.
Because that's tricked the person behind. He's pulled out a lovely gap. Brilliant for him. Well done. He's going to second. The chaos he's caused behind is unspeakable. Just with 3 cars, that car slamming on the brakes behind, all those other cars having to slam on the brakes. You saw it in, what was it, the Emilio Romano Grand Prix or wherever it was back in 2020. The carnage you can cause in real life when you force 19 cars behind you to slow down without any warning. Okay.
Oh yes, I remember that one now. Yes, of course. I can't remember which one it was now.
Yeah, it was the Ferrari track, wasn't it? It was the special one. You had cars going over the back of each other, and we've had huge crashes. We had one in Portugal one year that was a very bad restart for the MRC, where it was just chaos, people grinding to a halt. You don't want that.
We had a Bahrain one once as well. I remember that one.
Yeah, and it can be you as the lead car, you sail off and you don't think you've done anything wrong because you're not involved in it, but everybody behind you knows what it's done, and it's serious. So, let's have a nice restart from Simba this time.
Yeah, so let the other two catch up. I mean, we'll have to make this quick. I think some of them are on the soft tyres and they may not be feeling too sweet either at this point. We saw Chris, he's on the mediums and he had a little bit of a moment out of one, but there we go. So let's go back up to Simba. We're right on board. There we are.
So slow, that's fine. He's controlling the pace and go as slow as he wants and move side to side. That's absolutely fine. It's all about when he decides to go. So when he decides to go, there he is, go, off he goes, gives it the beans, that's it. One go, gone. Everybody has to react to that. Now, most of the time, car in front and catch second place, off guard, make that time up anyway. But that's safe. You're not causing carnage behind you, and that's what you want to see. So, I just wanted to bring that one up. Luckily, we haven't had any this season, but it's sometimes when you unexpectedly find yourself as the lead safety car, panic can set in, particularly if you're on the wrong set of tyres and you're used to being 14th. It's just worth remembering that you don't want to mess everybody up behind you.
Yeah, exactly that. It's exactly, and we don't condone any kind of. We know accidents happen, but safety car restarts. We all watch F1 enough, so we know how this should be done, and you can actually get a good jump on somebody just simply by getting a good restart, and it can still be clean.
Yeah.
I think we have covered the hints and tips that we were hoping to cover for the night. I'm sure folks will have another one of these in due course if it should be necessary. Hopefully not. But I'll let these guys, especially those on the soft tyres, come to the pits and breathe a sigh of relief. Unless they fancy a few laps themselves and get some extra sneaky practice in for Monday night's race. But hopefully, for everybody, that's helped everyone, just giving everybody a little bit more of an insight into what we're trying to achieve with MRC, and just trying to give some hints, trying to help people. We're all here. We have 4 tiers, of course. We've got the elite tier, if you like, and then the going down to tier 4 for the newer drivers and the less experienced drivers. And that's what these are here to do. It's not to point the finger at anybody. It's not to condone anybody's a particular offence or anything like that. It is just a blanket to say, hey, look, guys, this is how we can improve, how you guys can improve as drivers as well. And we've got a few of the guys here on circuit who are, generally speaking, clean and fair drivers. Of course, like I say, accidents do happen, but generally the 4 on track are very clean drivers, and they've been able to showcase and just help us out tonight and demonstrate.
Yeah, it's been lovely. I'm really glad this video exists. I think that, it's a lot more accessible sometimes than our rulebook. It gives us some really good examples of how stewards are thinking. Sometimes if you're new to sim racing, or if you're new to the league, you're just used to messing around with your mates. You'll make dodgy moves. You'll try and dive bomb because that's what you do to the AI all the time. And the AI never complain. They never snap back at you. They never have a steward's report to you at the end of the race. You've got to remember that you're racing against 19 other human beings, individuals who don't want their race ruined by you, who want to have a good time as well, want to keep it fun and fair. And that's what we're trying to do here at the MRC. And hopefully this video helps to go some way to achieving that goal.
Exactly that. And I'll have to say thank you to Connor, to Simba, to Andrew, and to Chris for taking part this evening as well. Thank you, Rob, for joining us and helping us and your insight as well. So it's been fantastic. Thank you.
No problem. Cheers. Thank you very much.
So hopefully everybody's watching. Andrew's giving us a showcase finale to finish off a few donuts, and I think Connor's going to join him as well. He's reversing. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for watching, and we will speak to you. Well, we'll see you soon. We'll see you on Monday. Don't forget, where we have tier 2 to start with, and then tier 1 will be followed very soon after round here in Zandvoort. So thank you everybody, and we will all see you soon. Good night.
Good night.